Welcome to the Agronomy and Farm Management Podcast. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Elizabeth. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to cover a topic that's a little bit different from what we normally talk about, and that's transitioning your acres to organic. According to the 2022 Census of Agriculture, Ohio is fifth for the number of farmers who are using organic practices, 15th for the number of acres in organic, and sixth for the number of acres that are in transition to organic. So, while that's still a pretty small percentage of our acres, that puts us really as a leader here in Ohio in the number of farmers that are thinking about transitioning or actually transitioning. So, luckily, here with OSU Extension, we've got Eric Rieger as a member of our farm management group, and he really focuses some of his work on organic and transitioning to organic. So, we're excited to have him join us today to share some of his insights. Welcome, Eric. Could you introduce yourselves to our listeners?
Hey, good morning, Elizabeth and Amanda. Thank you for the warm introduction. I'm Eric Rieger. I'm associate professor and field specialist in farm management with OSU Extension and the farm office team. Glad to be here. You said it, Elizabeth. Since transition to our new position as field specialist, I feel like in some days I'm working in organic farm management, which includes a lot of agronomy, right? But definitely a different set of management practices. So happy to be here.
Yeah, I think given the numbers we just quoted up front, like it's worthwhile to have someone who's focusing their time on helping farmers make this transition. So we're really excited to get your insights today. To start off with, do you want to just talk to us about how you got started working in this space and where it's led?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I kind of stumbled upon it really as a county educator in Fulton County. Fulton County is not a hotbed for organic production, but in 2017, I think this was maybe a pivotal point is we hosted a program called Taking Your Farm a Different Direction. And so it's based off of this concept that lots of farmers are all going in this one direction. And maybe the one or two or three farmers who think differently might have an opportunity from a production perspective, from a growth, from a profitability perspective. One of the speakers at that event was an organic speaker, and he brought some of his organic farmer colleagues, and it kind of grew from there. We had another event in 2019. I was invited up to Aaron Silva's O-Grain event up in Madison in 2022, and then spoke there last year. And then we said, hey, we can do this in Ohio. So in 2023, we modeled our OSU Organic Grains Conference off of what they do in Madison, the O-Grain Conference, and tried to stay hyper-focused on organic grain production. I think when you talk to growers about conventional growers about organics, usually one of the first questions is, is there a sale? Is there a way to sell these products or these grains? Is Ohio in a position to compete? And then overall, what are the hurdles related, or how do I do it? And so in the last 3 to 4 years, worked in that space at the tail end of my county educator position. And then as I moved into a field specialist position, certainly we've created some fact sheets and organic enterprise budgets, certainly some oral and in-person visits about transition to organic, and then ultimately this annual OSU conference that seeks to gather organic commercial growers from the Eastern Corn Belt states.
It seems like in the space I've worked in a little bit, and thanks to Eric, have more connections with organic farmers in my area. There's a couple ways that they approach it. It looks like market opportunity, and also there's the desire to not use pesticides anymore. Some take advantage or take the approach of both, and some are just looking for a market opportunity, and others are just looking to get away from pesticide use. So can you talk a little bit about what organic production is and your experience with farmers as they've decided to move into that space?
Yeah, I think you mentioned two key points, right? This potentially environmental sustainability space and this added market opportunity or profitability space. And I think the farmers who continue to stay in organic grain production have a nice mix of those. So to define organic ag, according to USDA, It's a set of production practices and principles that are kind of rooted in these natural systems. It's regulated, it's inspected and protected by USDA or subcontractors for USDA. Every grower that grows has to go through a verification method or again and get an inspection each season. And that's good for US consumers who are buying the organic label, and it's also good for farmers who want to capture that market premium. Farmers can only use Organic Materials Review Institute products. So those are OMRI products, as you may see them on a label. They have to be approved by the USDA's National Organic Program or the NOP. And I think, I mean, ultimately, when we talk to farmers in extension, we say, well, if you want to try a new crop or a new practice or new product, you got to have a market, right? You got to
Mhm.
be able to sell it. And so I think there's always a suspicion as is there demand for organic food products? And while that demand has softened just a little bit since COVID, there was a tremendous spike in COVID, and that's for various reasons that we won't get into today. But since COVID, there's been a 4% year over year, an average of a 4% year over year growth in the organic food product, which is about a $64 billion business, and 6% of the organic food dollar is attributed to, or 6% of the food dollar in this country is attributed to organics when you look at the OTA data and USDA data.
So can you talk about where that demand is coming from? Because we are talking mainly corn, soy, and soybeans. So a lot of consumers aren't eating those products directly. So where are those commodities going?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we talk about organic grains, the number one customer is going to be feed processors that are feeding organic poultry and laying facilities. So not a lot different than the conventional corn and soybean market, who is dependent on feed processors, right? Corn for feed, soybean meal for feed. Organic grain producers are in that same boat. Now, the organic soft red winter wheat that's sold does go into food products, crackers and cakes that bear the organic label. And we have an organic processor here in the state. We're fortunate for that. But those are the biggest. So biggest products. I should back up. The biggest products are poultry, followed by dairy, followed by produce. So in those top three products, you did not hear the word grain, right?
Mhm.
So the grain is fed to that livestock in the first two placeholders, if you will. So good question. I think to add, I think there are some opportunities for some direct market stuff, some specialty grains, but they're not at scale yet, right? So that's unique relationship marketing for your organic grain farm. So Ohio is in a pretty special place geographically. We often in the commodity space compete with the I states, right? And the I states in the organic grain space uh, are further from the coast, right? And so the organic markets are typically on the East Coast and West Coast. And so Ohio is just, one or two or three states closer to the East Coast where a lot of that consumption happens, where a lot of those chicken barns are. And so you'll often see bids for Ohio organic corn and soybeans as a tick better than you could get in the I states, but not the premium you could get on the East Coast. But a lot of it's going to the East Coast.
Yeah, you've kind of hinted around the answer to this question when we talked about up front how really high ranking Ohio is in that transition. Can you just call out some of those top reasons why making that move into organic is so attractive in Ohio?
Well, Ohio, you had said it earlier, Elizabeth, that we're fifth in the number of farmers, 15th in the number of acres, and I think it's important to call out on a very unbiased basis that according to the most recent organic data for Ohio, we only have 110 acres of certified organic. That is less than 1% of our state's acres. So that's a reality check for both conventional farmers and organic farmers that say, well, we can convert everything or nothing is converted. 1% is not a small number, but it's also not zero. So um, Ohio also ranks really well in corn and organic corn and bean production. We are sixth in certified organic soybean acres and ninth in certified organic corn acres. That's nothing to blink at. And a lot of that's because we do so well. We have a number of organic poultry integrators for the layer and broiler business. And we're fortunate in Ohio to have that. And so that sometimes helps us out. We also are ranked pretty high in the single digits in hay production and in dairies, I think fourth in dairies. And so those are impressive numbers in many cases, thanks to our playing community in the state.
I really think the biggest consideration when farmers are thinking about transitioning to organic is it seems like there's insurmountable hurdles. So, can you talk a little bit about what it's like, what those hurdles might be, and then, we can get into how you might overcome those.
Yeah, I'd love to talk just a little bit about the hurdles. And I would say these 5 words that I'm going to say are synthesized from conversations at our Organic Grains Conference. So I don't have great documentation on this aside from conversations and experience and talking with commercial growers in our state and surrounding states. So if you were to ask me what are the hurdles in no particular order, but perhaps in the order I'll discuss, are the 5 key hurdles are time, weeds, nitrogen, markets, and paperwork. Those in my mind and in many growers' minds, when you ask them, well, what does it take to transition? Well, those are the questions. That's where the questions come in at. So, if you want, we can start with time. What does it mean? What does it mean that time is a hurdle? And so the biggest time hurdle is you can't jump into organics. It's not like it's May 15th and you can decide whether you plant organic corn or conventional corn. There's a 36-month transition period. Otherwise, I mean, you can couch it as 2 production seasons, but a grower has to not use any prohibited substance. So they have to be OMRI approved substances, and there's a huge list of those things, generally categorized into synthetic fertilizers, genetically modified seeds, pesticides, municipal solid waste. Big 4 that can't be used. So for 2 production seasons or 36 months, you cannot use these. And so you can't instantly flip a switch and say, I want to grow organic corn, organic soybeans. So that's the first time bucket. Secondly, it just invariably takes more time to operate an organic acre, period. I mean, there is no argument that it takes more owners, labor and management, more hired labor. I did a quick search on Finbin data this morning in Illinois, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. The average corn acre takes about 60% more hours than a conventional corn acre. And I choose those 3 states because the data is the most robust. This is something where I'm working with a colleague of ours in Ohio to get Ohio data, but 4.2 hours to 2.6 hours of owners, labor, and management. So organic 4.2. This is farmer responses versus 2.6 on a conventional farm. Invariably more time. So I think time is a huge hurdle to transition.
What do you speculate is that driver in that added time? Is it the size of equipment? I'm just curious to dig into what adds that time.
Yeah, I think it's weed control passes. Okay. I think without a doubt, we plant it, organic production plants at the same speed with the same equipment, same widths in many cases, size to the farm, right? For maximum efficiency. Same on harvest. What takes the time is the weed control. And in many cases, you could say, well, the owner doesn't have to do that. But the reality is they are a little bit smaller farms. So the owner is sitting in that tractor doing some of those weed control passes versus maybe hired labor. But the higher labor numbers in those FinBin comparisons are up about value. I did a value, it's up about 60% too. So it takes 60% more dollars, 60% more hours.
Well, and
Yeah.
then, you're adding probably diesel fuel into those extra passes too.
Yeah.
But yeah, your answer to that question leads right into your next hurdle, which is weed control. So do you want to dive into that one in more detail?
Yeah, I think beyond time, actually, I would say that maybe the first statement, if you're in a circle of a mixed circle of conventional and organic guys, the conventional guys will ask the organic guys, well, how do you control weeds? It's actually the second question. The first question is markets, typically in a typical conversation, but the second one, an overwhelming one of current certified guys is weed control. Year in, year out, weed control remains the highest, the most thought about and time consuming hurdle. So it does have a big impact on yields. If you're considering transition, you can't do weed control. I got to be careful how I say this. Early in organic production, I would say you cannot avoid tillage in the system. There's some research being done on minimum till and no-till organic production involving rye. That's not this podcast, but I would say you need to be comfortable with tillage in the system. There's a lot of tools in the toolbox, and I think sometimes when you talk with when I talk with organic growers, I don't realize how much technology they're using, or hey, I've come to know that, right? Like, so maybe there's not sprayer technology involved for controlling weeds, but there are tine weeders, wide rotary hose, double rotary hose, precision cultivators with camera hitches. And Amanda, you're working with a grower in your region that does flame weeding, and that's fairly common on the organic farm, as is weed
Mhm.
zappers. We have a vendor coming to the Organic Grains Conference that's a robotic weeder. We've had impact mills that destroy the weed seeds coming off the combines. We've had them participate in our technology panel. So just a wide variety. I think we have 10 or 12 equipment technology vendors that come to our conference, and it's pretty cool to talk with them how they're managing weed seeds. And so I would say, similar to a conventional farmer, we worry about organic growers will worry about weed control. And so I think that's really pretty awesome to think about all the technology that's out there. I think if you're considering transitioning, you're probably not going to have weed-free fields. And so there's a certain amount of social pressure associated with that from neighboring farmers and from landowners. And so you can't take that decision lightly, and you may have years that are better than others. And so just for what it's worth.
Yeah, and when I think about that time in weed management, I was talking with one of the producers in Madison County about doing an on-farm research trial, and you start adding, there's just limitations adding different planting dates, then that backs up your weed control. And so a lot of those factors just make it harder to actually do research in this space where we need research because it hasn't been done. So that's just a added challenge, but hopefully we can work around those with some of the newer technologies.
Well, we have run out of time for today. Thanks, Eric, for kicking this off, and we look forward to continuing this conversation in 2 weeks. For our listeners, registration is open for the Organic Grains Conference, and the early bird discount ends December 5th, so don't delay. See the show notes for a link and sign up soon.
Thanks for listening to the Agronomy and Farm Management Podcast. Join us again in 2 weeks for our next episode.
Hey, podcast listeners, just a reminder to give us a like or subscribe so you know when we release new episodes. If you're enjoying the podcast, be sure to leave us a review also. We appreciate the comments.